Hello, welcome to Tarot with Tanya. 7 cards for 7 days is what we're doing today, and we are looking at the week of Monday, September 8th to Sunday, September 14th in 2025. So, second week of September already. Of course, that means that the sun is in Virgo. It also means we've just come off of this lunar eclipse, total lunar eclipse, that just happened with the moon in Virgo. And very potent energies. I talked about that last week. That can last up to 6 months. There are a lot of things actually going on astrologically, but far too complicated for me to deal with here. But there are great people out there that you can find lots of information on YouTube. So we start this week with the moon in Pisces, and we go to the moon in Cancer. And before I forget, remember, always take these readings for the collective with a grain of salt, meaning run it through your own intuition, see what resonates for you, and leave behind what does not. All right, so that moon in Pisces is where we'll begin the week. And that is the collective unconscious, the very dreamy, the creative, the poetic, the musical, concerned with humanity, and what makes us all one. Then we go, of course, to Aries, which is where we separate out. It's about the ego and the individual, the infant, also the warrior. An energy that wants to get there first and to take action. It can be very protective. Then we'll go to the moon in, it's barely in Pisces on Monday. It shifts pretty quickly, so we're going to have more moons this week than usual. Then we go to the moon in Taurus, the earthy, the stable, the sensual, loves things like gardening, good food, very grounded, earthy. And then we'll end on Sunday evening. So most of the day we'll go, I forgot Gemini. So Gemini is in there too, where we think it's the twins. It's about traveling, short distance travel, communication, our ideas, verbal and written communication. And then finally we end with the moon going into Cancer on Sunday evening, which would be the 14th again. So that's about home and family and nurturing, taking care of the people we love in our immediate area. All right, so the aspects, there's not... we still have all these planets retrograde. Let me mention that first. We have Uranus retrograde, we have Saturn retrograde, we have Neptune and Pluto retrograde. So all these big planets, these are not the personal planets. So these go slower, and they're moving backwards to give us a chance to revisit places we've already been, to reflect on those, to do some introspection. I mean, that's on the personal level, and also we do that on a cultural level, on a world level as well. So that can play out in various ways, where maybe something got started before we didn't, see any kind of a conclusion or have an understanding. And then as these go backwards, and then they're interacting with each other too, the planets, both ones that are retrograde, the bigger ones, and then also the personal that are moving around, and things could be revealed. And eclipses are really big for that too. So it doesn't mean it's all going to happen on the day of the eclipse, but it brings forward that energy of revelation. And the eclipses that we're going through, Virgo, Pisces, they're very much activated. So truth and illusion being very detailed and more separate versus being very, going in broader strokes and becoming very connected. Okay. So on Friday the 12th, which is my sister's birthday, happy birthday, we will have the Sun sextiling Jupiter and Mercury sextiling Jupiter as well. So that's because they're very close to each other. They typically are, but they're especially close. I think Mercury is staying in Virgo only about 16 days this time. So it's going to be, close to the Sun, obviously. And these aspects, these sextiles, there's a good flow there. They communicate, so they emphasize things like study. That's very much Jupiter, and Mercury, travel, same things. And the Sun just helps expand that. When the Sun and Jupiter are in a good flow, it's auspicious. So it's a good energy to expand our knowledge of the world. It can have us feeling very optimistic, very self-confident. We want to look for benevolent opportunities, and so forth. So that could be a really, really nice day. And I'm glad for that for my sister's birthday. Then on Saturday the 13th, we have the Sun actually conjunct Mercury. And, this is going to amplify what Mercury's about. So a lot of those same things of traveling, feeling optimistic, lots of ideas, feeling like you're pretty sharp with your words, that Mercury, again, with the communication. Good thinking could be creative thinking, that also, has a point to it. So that's our week with the stars. And again, there's always this bigger picture, and I do think it is one of big social changes happening in the world. All right, so for our cards, I'm using the Golden Tarot, and we begin our week that Monday, the 8th, with the Hierophant. And we have 3 majors, is that right? Yeah, 3 majors this week. And last week, I think we had none. So it's interesting how that changes, and maybe that's in part because of that eclipse, that the energies get amped up. This is a 5, and these are about human lessons. It connects to law and, higher courts, education, higher education, spirituality, can be more church related, can be more the darker sides of being in legal issues, things like that. But generally, I think of it as our inner spiritual guidance, that we are learning as humanity, that it's not out there, but it's in here. Obviously that message has been around for thousands of years, but we tend to externalize instead of looking for that internal power. So this is that internal guidance. Again, it can be the more outward expression of that, the more maybe mundane isn't right, but more connected to the world. But when you take it inward, that spiritual inner teacher, that inner spiritual guidance. Then on Tuesday, the 9th, we have the King of Coins, or discs, pentacles, you might think of them as. They're the earth energy. This is a mastery in that. This is the very slow king, the one who really takes his time. Makes me think of the old nursery rhyme. The king was in his counting house counting out his money. And, you get a sense of that here. So it can be very materialistic. On the more positive side, it can be nurturing in a masculine kind of way. So a sort of gentle protection, making sure people are taken care of, providing structures that help people function well. So very earthy in that way. And it can represent, an inner energy or a person with a more mature masculine energy that you might encounter. Wednesday, I would say, is the only day that has much of a challenge, really. And this one is mental because it's swords. It's going to connect to the Hermit. So an aspect of that is like a kind of examination of the self that can get too critical. You know, the Hermit card, or the Crone, as it's called in some decks, it relates to the Virgo energy, and that Virgo energy is so analytical, so precise, so detail oriented. But if it gets turned on the self, it can be cruel to the self. This in the Thoth deck is called cruelty. So what keeps us up at night? What are we poking ourselves with? What is disturbing us? It's almost like the person has awakened from a dream. The dog has come to help. The dog might even stand for depression. That black dog hanging around the back door. You may know the Sheryl Crow song, but that is definitely an old image for depression. So here we get a kind of feeling like that, but it passes. You know, just know that it's turned inward. So watch for that and talk to the self. Be nice to the self. See what's really going on. I saw something recently, or maybe I think it was in the Tree Keeper's Oracle book, actually, where the question was not what bad thing did I do, but what happened to me that I'm acting like I am. And I think that's a great distinction. So the Nine of Swords could be a good place to work with that. When we get to Thursday, we get that second major, and in this deck, that's number 11, Justice. So here we have scales they're a little bit hard to see, but she is holding them. There is a feminine figure in one, a masculine figure in another. There's a devil-like figure, some angels. There's a falcon, you know, that can be about speed and precision, clarity, and that. But the face, I don't know how well you can see it, but the face is almost benevolent. It's like, I do this work, but I do it, you've heard the phrase blind justice. You do it without ill will. You do it because it's the right thing to do. So there's something that day that will need to be balanced, or we may see a great act of justice in the world, or see injustice and want justice, you know, for people. It could be someone close, could be, you know, just people in general in the world or in particular places. So that's our Thursday. And then on Friday, we have the Wands. So the only thing we didn't get this week, I'm looking now, is the Cups. So we have some feminine energy, definitely. And then, you know, balanced with the masculine. So it's a pretty good balance. It just doesn't have the emotional, the psychic, the intuitive this week. But the Six of Wands sometimes is called victory, and you can see they're looking pretty jaunty here, coming home on their horses with their banners, their flags flying. Tends to be a happy card connected to the lovers, so that can be about communication and negotiations. So something that has pleased them is feeling good, and you know, the wand energy is instinct. They're fired up, but you know, coming in a pretty harmonious way here. The only thing to be careful of is not, you know, to trample others. Saturday, the moon. So this is the last major for this particular week. This is the 18 card, which reduces to a 9. And so that's our second 9 for the week, because we also have that 9 of Swords. And you can see how, you know, when we get the full moon, we might wake up. It's harder to sleep. It is for me when there's a full moon. And, you know, everything is illuminated. And, you know, we have the term lunacy. So what happens here? And, you know, this could be an aspect of that as well. Bad dreams, bad thoughts that are needing to be addressed in some way and show up on a full moon. So here, you know, you have a lunar scape, I would call it. There's, you can probably see that, a face in that moon. Again, a rather benevolent look. You have a horned animal here, stag-like creature. There's some sort of almost like a dog suggested in this sort of big white face here. And then we do have actual smaller dogs. And there is some sea creatures here as well. So it's a lot of what could show up in a very vivid imagination. And the moon, deeply feminine, mystical, very much the unknown. So what do we need to look at? What's coming to me right now is perhaps a look into the collective unconscious. You know, what do we carry from that? What will we wonder about that may not be revealed quite yet, and that, but eventually we will see? And just honoring that deep feminine that doesn't always know in this way, but somehow knows. All right, even if it can't be articulated for a while, it can be expressed in some other way. And then finally on Sunday, the 14th, we get the 7 of coins. I believe this came up last week. So it's that taking stock, evaluating your resources in a very real way. This person standing under the tree. It's almost like, I believe it's, I don't know. Anyway, a person getting ready to harvest. It's almost like you're going to pull these great big golden apples from the tree. There's a little companion, the dog. It almost seems like they're going out for a walk, but I feel like it's a walk. And you see this kind of trail over here too. But it almost is like I'm walking out and I'm checking my resources. So what is it that I have? What makes me strong? What makes me feel secure? And remember, the 7s will all connect to the Chariot. So what do I need to feel solid in going forward in my life? And again, we might be looking at resources in the world on that day, on that more collective level. All right, last but not least, our oracle card, and that is the Keeper of Surrender. And I know we've had this before. It seems to come up a fair amount, but during autumn, how perfect. We're getting close to that autumn equinox. Trees show us how beautiful it is to let go. The cessation of chlorophyll causes the trees to burst into true color as they release their leaves. Surrender isn't defeat. It's the sacred pause that allows us to use all our senses to receive a new vision. Cease all striving. Stop the endless cycles of productivity. Abolish your white-knuckle resiliency. Lay your spine along the earth's solid ground and feel the support waiting for you there. Align your spine along the length of your favorite tree and feel the solidity of bark, the warmth of sap, and the hum of tree song. There are times when effort only creates futility and extends suffering. This is one of them. Something new wants to communicate with you and is awaiting your presence in this moment. And if you reflect back on what I said about the cards, I think you'll find that in there too. Thank you so much for being here, beloveds. I really appreciate you, and I'm wishing you the best possible week. Please, if you like this, give it a like, share it with others you know, subscribe if you haven't. And if you're looking for a reading, reach out. There's information below in the description box and at the end of the video. And I'll see you soon.